Hello, thank you so much for having me. Like the panel before, I'm going to be more old school. I can't pace and hold a microphone and notes at the same time, I'm afraid. So I'm going to talk about Human Rights Watch, which is absolutely an advocacy organization. That's how we think of ourselves. But we are all about bearing witness in order to change lives. We're 420 people working in 90 countries, and our role is to investigate human rights violations, to expose them as widely as possible, and to bring about the pressure on governments to stop the killing or the torture or the discrimination, to free the press, to treat people with respect. So having said that we're very firmly an activist organization, I want to show you a little film about how we work in the field.
We work here as this boat arrived with about 60 people, many families, many young children.
When did you leave the resort?
How many days since they've had the medicine?
This is a rocket struck in Donetsk, and as you can see, in a populated area.
ما خلاناش ندرس، احنا نمشي نرجع للمدارس وهم يهددونا نباكسوا في المدارس.
قتلوا ناسهم؟
هنا كلهم.
The spiritual home of Boko Haram is just a stone throw from here. The school was the very first reported school attack.
In Bangladesh, there is this perfect storm where natural disasters really fuel the cycle of child marriage. Pretty much every girl we spoke to said that their lives had been destroyed by marrying so young.
These images were smuggled out of Syria by a military defector codenamed Caesar. They are said to be of some of the thousands who have died in government custody there. Human Rights Watch has now published a report called If the Dead Could Speak.
العشرات عم يموتوا يوميا بفروع الأمن السوري وبأبشع الأساليب التعذيب بأبشع أساليب التعذيب.
Can you tell how far away was the person who shot him?
Very close.
For years, paramilitaries and gangs in Buenaventura have been murdering people and burying them in hidden graves in different areas of the city.
There are 30 people who are currently living in this institution, 29 of whom are chained.
We're here in one of the informal camp settlements for Syrian refugees in the Bekaa Valley. There are around 200,000 Syrian children who are not getting any education in Lebanon at this stage.
So, as you can see, on the ground, Human Rights Watch researchers really look a lot like journalists. We gather information from witnesses and survivors and law enforcement, government officials, medics, perpetrators even. And this fact-finding is the basis of everything that we do. We ask questions of as many people as we can. We cross-check, we verify, when necessary, we correct. We try to get the government's version of events. It's not always possible. We have a code of conduct about how we work, especially about how we interview vulnerable or traumatized people. And as you see, we travel with photographers and videographers because that was all our footage. We want the visual content to meet the same standards as our words. So what do we do with all this information that we gather? We produce long reports. We focus a lot on forgotten stories, places like the Central African Republic, a place so obscure that most of us couldn't find it on the map despite its name. This is one of several reports we've done on the Central African Republic, a product of months and months in the field, doing dozens of interviews, traveling widely in a place with almost no infrastructure. there aren't a lot of news outlets today that can afford that kind of an investment in the story. Of course, because of the internet, you know, we're a media company. We publish and broadcast our stories in print, you know, in multimedia, with stills, you know, on our sites. We obviously use social media, in particular Twitter, because we're really thinking a lot about you. We have more than 200 Human Rights Watch accounts. We have more than 3 million Twitter followers in English and another 250,000 in multiple other languages. So we do reach the general public, but Twitter in particular, we're really thinking about reaching journalists and policymakers who are critical audiences for us. We also, of course, use Facebook and Instagram and Tumblr and YouTube and Medium. We're a news source for Google, and how we wish we were a Snapchat Discover partner. Although, if we were, we'd then have to fundraise to hire somebody to produce the content. But, you know, it would probably be worth it. We think it would be a good investment at this point. But still, despite the fact that we act like a media company, distributing content is also critical to us through the medium of press releases, because for us, journalists are still a really important part of how we make change and how we bring pressure on those who are committing human rights abuses. There's sort of this life cycle that we're all a part of. A story breaks, you cover it. We often go into this kind of forensic journalism mode where we really spend a lot of time in a place and uncovering a story. We are producing video, for example, which we're also distributing to media companies for you to use. Breaking news happens, you report it, we go in and report it further, then you come back and report it again. And all of this cycle of reporting and our reporting and more headlines really increases the pressure on governments. It raises the cost of the abuse, so that when our advocates go into the corridors of power to try to persuade people to stop violating people's rights, we're more likely to be heard. Because we're a global organization, we do this in multiple languages, and we're trying to reach journalists in many, many places. Sometimes, when we work like this, we actually achieve impact. In the case of the Central African Republic, where there was really horrendous violence taking place, was turning into a brutal sectarian civil war that really very few people were paying attention to, we were able to make a difference. In the Central African Republic, Twitter was very important. We were trying to get attention to the story. But obviously, if you search on Twitter for CAR, you're not going to find many human rights stories. So we came up with the hashtag Car Crisis, which then got adopted and has been very widely used over the past couple of years. We really were able to put this story on the sort of media map. And that's why Samantha Power went to the Central African Republic, the Security Council went, and why in the end the UN Security Council decided to deploy peacekeepers there. So we start with gathering the facts on the ground and exposing them as widely as we can. But to make a real difference, we still need the media as well, because even as we reach an engaged public, we still rely on all of you to cover our stories for the extra credibility you can give us, as well as for the audiences you reach. From my perspective, I like nothing better than you re-reporting the stories that we've done and coming to the same conclusions, or reporting out a lead that we've given you, even if you don't credit us, as sometimes happens. So, and by the way, when we distribute our video, we give you a cut version which is branded, and then we give you a clip reel, some of which is branded and some of which isn't. And I'm always surprised by the media companies who choose to use our content without actually crediting us, and therefore without telling their audiences where they're getting the footage from. So I would say we produce journalism, but we're not journalists. We don't stop at the story. We push recommendations to try to fix the problem. We've got the resources and the commitment to go deep and to stick around, which I think is good for all of us. I think that ultimately the successful formula is that your breaking news and our forensic journalism that's then amplified by the mainstream media is what leads to impact and what changes people's lives. Thanks.